Hi, Laura. Nice to have you on the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's very exciting.
Yeah, same here. I'm excited to have this conversation. I think we have a couple of interesting things to talk about today, but
Definitely.
let's go the traditional route of you just probably introducing yourself and a bit more about what you do.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, hello. So, my name is Laura Allen. I'm a business coach and consultant based in the UK, but I work with clients in the UK, Middle East, and Europe. So, basically, EMEA. And I've been out on my own working for myself now since 2013, and I love it. And I
Hmm,
love helping business owners to live the life and the business that they want to live as well, which is really exciting.
2013, that is 12 years.
No, sorry, did I say
What
2013? No, I keep doing that. 2023. It feels like it's been that long, but no, sorry, 2023.
Okay, 2020. Okay. Okay, so for you, what was your turning point? Because I think there's always a story when, mostly when you're in a corporate world, and it can be a very fantastic place to be, but sometimes people just want more. So, what was that turning point for you?
Yeah, so I was really ambitious. I always was. I was a high performer, like top
Mm,
talent, strived really, really, really hard. And I became the head of HR shared services for the company that I worked for. So I started off junior, kind of entry level HR, very quickly got promoted, went from role to role to role, ended up as head of HR shared services. And my love for helping people didn't go, but I started to recognize that it didn't matter how senior I became. My agenda was always going to be at the bottom of the pile because HR as a
mm,
function, employee well-being as a function, is never priority over making money. And so I started to have a lot of values clashes with the organisation and how I wanted things to be done versus how they wanted to do things. So I became very unhappy. I went through a period of burnout, depression, some sort of really severe mental health issues in 2019. So I was already in a space where I was thinking, right, I need to get out of here. But then COVID hit, 2020 started, and I thought, oh, maybe just stay tight for a little bit longer. But then in 2020, my mum got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and
oh,
she passed
sorry.
away in the October. And so that for me was like the switch that flicked. And I thought, if I'm this unhappy and I've allowed my mental health to get, this damaged, and I've only potentially got another 30 years left of my life, I don't want to spend it doing this. And so that was what made me think I need to make a change. Now, I had no idea what it was I wanted to do. And I
Mm,
ran off to Costa Rica for 6 weeks and took a sabbatical. And it was on that trip there that I saw people tapping on laptops, working from the beach, jumping in the water and surfing. And I just thought, hang on a minute, like, how are you doing this? Why aren't you sat behind a desk in an office somewhere? I had no real concept of the fact that you could work for yourself, be a digital nomad and do all of these things, because I'd always come from either a corporate environment or a retail environment, so self-employment, and I wasn't surrounded by people in my personal life who were self-employed. So it just didn't really occur to me as being an option. So that was the turning point for me. I realized that there was another way to live, there was another way to work. And from that point, I became obsessed with finding my way out of corporate and starting my own thing. So that was 2021 that happened. So it took me a little bit of time to retrain and get ready, and then I left in 2023.
First of all, once again, sorry about your mom passing. I know that must
Thank
be
you.
difficult for
Mm,
anyone. But grief has a way of also just unveiling certain aspects of our lives, I guess,
100%.
that
Yeah.
maybe people probably didn't think about. I've had someone on the podcast share something similar. One, it was after he had an accident, and
Mm,
like literally, he was close to dying, and he was like,
wow.
"Do I really want to spend the rest of my life doing what I'm doing when,
Hmm.
yeah, something can happen?" And good to see that you're kicking strong, you're looking strong and happy. Let's talk about Costa Rica. For someone like you enjoy vacation, going on
Hmm.
holidays, I guess. Uh,
Yeah.
for you to see that and then admire that. So, what was your first thought when you really saw people just jumping around, like probably not not behind a desk? What crossed your mind in that moment?
I was honestly shocked. It really unlocked something in my brain where I just thought, hang on a minute, if they can do that, then I can do that.
Mm,
Because so right now I love holidays. Everything I do now is so that I can go on fantastic holidays. But I didn't travel properly in my life until I went on that trip. I started working full time when I was 16. So when many of my friends went to university, had gap years, went to Thailand, did all that travel, I just worked. So I waited until I was 28 to fly to somewhere incredible, to then see how amazing the world was and how other people were able to do that whilst also working and earning a living. And I just thought, I'm I'm a really capable person. Whatever they're doing, I know that I can do it. I back myself, but I just didn't realize that was an option for me. So actually, it was the
Mm.
realizing that there were other options that I could try and pursue was the real thing. And yeah, I spent that whole 6 weeks just sat there like, how can I do this? How can this be my life? Like, this is amazing. So yeah, it was really eye opening. And I always say to people, if you're thinking about planning a different future for yourself, you need to get out of the space that you spend the most time. You can't sit within the same four walls that you spend every single day and feel inspired and be able to create new ideas and new goals for yourself. Get
Yep.
outside, go for a walk, go to a cafe. Like, you don't have to go all the way to Costa Rica, although I highly recommend. Just get yourself out in a different environment and allow your mind to open up to the art of what's possible.
It's difficult for most people to actually see that. I'll say they have a tunnel vision. That's the crazy thing, right? If you're
Yeah.
in a place for so long, you actually feel you have a broad perspective because you're seeing some things move left, right, but there's a whole world bigger than that space. And sometimes
Yeah.
it takes like a trip to Costa Rica, and maybe someday I'll go for that trip as well, to just turn your vision, or move things in another direction. I'll say something similar happened to me as well. That was what gave me the confidence because I saw some other people doing it. I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, if I put in the effort, I think I can do something
Yeah.
similar and have that freedom.
Yeah.
For you to make that switch, you had to obviously improve and develop and just grow. So what was that journey like for you, and how did you know what to look out for, what to learn during that transition period?
Yeah, so it took me a little while to figure out that coaching was the thing that I wanted to do. And originally, I did holistic life coaching. So, wanted to go down the holistic path and really help people through healing journeys and stuff because that's something that I'd experienced. That then transitioned more into career coaching and helping people to jump out of corporate like I did, because I'd found a way, I'd found a path and a method to do that. So I did qualifications for that. What I did, which I think is different to what some people do, is I went into the business side of things first, really. I was like, how do I run a business? How do I market? How do I, set up a business, tax, payments, all of that kind of good stuff, like the back end processes of working for yourself. Created systems that I could use so that I could, work with clients. That was something that I paid a lot more attention to as opposed to just focusing on the coaching skill itself. Whereas I think a lot of people will go and do a qualification and become a coach, and then they'll be like, how do I actually start a business? And it takes people
Yeah.
longer to do it that way, whereas I did it the other way around. And the reason I was able to do that was because my background in HR, management, leadership, that I knew already how to kind of coach people. Like, I already kind of was confident in that process. I just needed to get a qualification just to get a rubber stamp essentially. But just focusing on like, what are all of the things and the skills that I'm going to need to know every single day to be able to do this successfully, write those down and just work on those and work out what it is that I need to do.
So in terms of picking the skills, like you said, maybe at first it might start off as something different, but as you go, it becomes clear. Like, I don't even know what to do if I'm to leave my job. What will I do? How do I switch? So
Yeah.
let's talk about clarity and probably direction, which is part of the core things you offer. Let's talk the power of clarity or the power of direction. How can people get clarity on what to do? How do they get to that point where they are convinced that this is what I need to do, and how do
Yeah.
they go about it?
So, regardless of whether I'm speaking to somebody who wants to leave their corporate job or change careers, or I'm talking to a business owner who I work with now, that's my niche now, business coaching and consulting. I always say to everyone, start with thinking about your life, right? There's a common misconception that we are here to work and that's the most important thing and that's what takes up the most of our time, and it doesn't. There's like 168 hours in the week. 40 hours of those, or no, sorry, say 35 hours of those you work and like 49 you sleep. It's something like 84 hours that you're not working. So let's start there. Where are you spending the most of your time? And I always say to people, what is your life plans? How do you want to spend your day? Who do you want to spend it with? What are your non-negotiables? What are the things that you need to do every single day to make you happy? So for some people who have got like passions in doing things like CrossFit, for example, if going to a 5 p.m. CrossFit class is what you need to be happy and healthy, then you need to factor that in before you start thinking about what you need to do with clarity with your career, etc. If your plans are to have a family, if your plans are to move abroad, you want to be a nomad, like whatever it is, focus on getting the clarity in your personal life first and how you want to spend your time. And then once you've got that, you can go on to the next layer, which is then, okay, your business. How does your business help you achieve those personal goals? Because nothing will wear a person down more than working like really hard at their career and at the end of it going, why am I even doing this? What is this even for? I'm not even getting to spend time with my family. I'm not even getting to go on a holiday. I'm not even getting to like look after myself and do my hobbies. So getting clear on those personal aspects is the most important thing.
Like what you said about we sometimes believe we spend most of our time working.
Mm-hmm.
And that's interesting because it's 40 hours out of 168.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
when you say, I'm like, that's true. That's
Well,
less than one fourth of your actual week
yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah. And the
So the
reason
rest,
it
where do they go?
Yeah, the reason it is because if you think about it, you've got 7 days of a week and most people work five,
Yes.
right? So you think, oh, five
Yep.
out of seven, that's it. It's the majority of your week. But
Ah,
actually, it's not. When you actually do the maths and you do it in hours, there's at least probably 80 odd hours a week that is your
mm,
free time. And it's difficult because then you've got evenings and maybe you've got young family and so you're looking after kids
yeah.
during that time or you're looking after dependents or whatever. But that's where you just have to work out what those non-negotiables are, what your boundaries are, and protect your time.
So I coach people, like I'm a productivity coach, and one of the key activities we do is our time audit,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where we actually check where you spend your time.
Yeah.
And I remember having this friend who is also a client, and when we checked, she spends roughly 4 to 5 hours on social media at the end of work.
That's like a whole
And that
evening,
was the first
right?
time, yes,
Yeah.
the whole evening is gone. And then she sleeps late and she's tired the next morning.
Oh.
And I'm like, what do you actually do? And she's like, I don't even know. I just go on Instagram. And I'm like, let me see two, three videos.
Yeah.
Well, I spend like 3 hours there. I go to another platform. Yeah, so you're spot on in terms of where we spend our time and just even
Mm-hmm.
understanding that we have maybe a bit more time than we realize. That is very helpful. You talked about holistic balance, right? Wellness. And I guess
Mm-hmm.
at some point you mentioned you were almost burnout, depressed, and all of that. Um,
Mm.
how can people then balance that with their long-term goals,
Mm-hmm.
right? Knowing that we are obviously we need to earn money,
Yeah.
and people primarily see the only way to earn that money is from working maybe 9 to 5. But let's say you want to also transition into business or something, and
Mm-hmm.
even if business folks are not having it easy because they
Mm-hmm.
tend to even work more hours than the 9 to 5, if we're being honest. So the question is, how do they achieve that goal, but not at the detriment of their health and
Yeah.
wellness?
It's that word, balance. So I think what's important to note about burnout is you can get burnout from, it's not just a work thing, right? You can burn out from all
Mm,
different types of situations. It could be through personal circumstances, it could be work. Burnout is, predominantly experiencing prolonged period of stress. But the other thing with burnout is you can also get misalignment burnout. So if you are spending a long time working towards something that is not the right goal, ultimately you're going to find yourself feeling fatigued, disengaged, not wanting to participate. So when it comes to like the corporate world for me, a lot of that was misalignment burnout because I was striving so hard to get to a certain position when actually it was the wrong position, it was the wrong organization and it wasn't the right path for me. And so eventually I just wore myself out. So a lot of business owners obviously are very ambitious people and they've got a lot of pressure on their shoulders to get money, have revenue coming into the business, pay their employees. It's a lot of stress and pressure. But what I see happening all the time is they completely forget to look after themselves on even the most basic levels. Staying hydrated, eating good foods that are going to nourish them, making sure that they are giving themselves adequate time to rest. Like you said earlier, we had a bit of a conversation about when you start getting online, like I'll make sure I go out in the morning, I go to the gym, I make sure I get some exercise before I start my day. I will always work on myself before I work for someone else. And so some of these really key and little like habits and behaviors
Yep.
can really help somebody in the long run. And then when it comes to things like the weekend, actually disconnecting, properly giving yourself time to leave the phone at home, engage with the family, be present, take rest, whatever it is that you need to do, and disconnecting from the business, because it's that feeling of constantly being on all the time that causes so many problems. And I know certainly when I was in my HR career, I had a team of 9, and some of my team members had their emails attached to their phones, and I was like, no, no,
Mm.
no, 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 there's not a requirement for you to do that. Just please stop, because when you're not working, you need to not be working, you need to be resting, because when you're
Yep.
in work, I want to see you thrive, and I can't see you do that if you're constantly connected and not enjoying your personal life. So it is around looking after yourself, and it doesn't have to be complicated. I'm not saying that you've got to go to the gym 5 days a week, but at least making sure that you're hydrated, nourished, and you're getting movement in your body, it really goes a long way.
Shift in perspective from what you just said. You start by working for yourself before you work even for your business and for others,
Yeah,
right? People are really focused on working for their business and others, and they feel they are not priority, and that
exactly.
can if I were it's such mindset, it's only a matter of time when they will burn out. So for me, my habit is simple. I switch off my phone every single night because I don't want to look at my phone when I wake up. I don't want
Yeah.
notifications. It will just take your mind off. In fact, you start fighting fires because you're already responding to someone
Yeah.
sent something. And then weekends, like there's a day where literally you barely find me online for like 12 hours because, and it's not even LinkedIn. I just say I don't want to go online.
Yeah.
And as a business owner, the best ideas actually come in that period because I am
Yeah.
not trying to, yeah, I'm not trying to respond to something. I'm actually in a state where I can come up with something new, something authentic. So yeah, good point. And I hope people really practice some of this simple habits. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be complex, just something that works. Building a team for the business, that is another area when you become a business owner. In fact, as a business owner, that was one of the biggest challenges I've had is actually building that team. One is because, and if you happen to be an A player, someone who is used to delivering, there's every tendency you'll just put yourself in that pedestal where
Yeah.
there's this thing I want to work on it. There's this thing I will work in it. So how do you disconnect from that mindset and then get the right people? Because with the right people, you can actually build a business. By yourself, like they say, if you go by yourself, you will go fast, but if you go with others, you will go far.
Yeah. So it's a hard one, especially like you said, if you're an A player, if you're somebody who's really competent and is very particular about how you do things, it can be really hard to trust other people. Now, this is something that I know most small business owners really struggle with because they've never been shown how to do this. So, the process of delegation. Now, delegating isn't just saying to someone else, here you go, here's a task, I want you to go and do it, off you go. Like, there is a process to delegation, really making sure that that person that you're delegating to understands what they're doing and what's expected of them. But it's also a two-way street. It's also that person's responsibility to make sure that they are seeking the approval from the delegator to make sure that they've understood. So I always say with delegating and saying, right, if you've got a process that you know is business critical, if it goes wrong, it's going to cause you problems, you need to make sure that you've got an SOP, so a standard operating procedure. You've got it written down step by step, what to do in what situation, how it's managed, how it's dealt with, times, like SLAs, the standard service level agreement, so making sure that it has to be done in this particular time. You train the person, you give them adequate time to review it, ask questions. You then go and let them do the task, and then you need to have a review. You need to come back in and say, how was that? Did it go okay? Got any questions? And as a leader, you need to be open to the fact that someone may need to come and ask you questions. And I think this is where it becomes really difficult, especially in a small business where like you're really busy. It's like, okay, here's the task, off you go. And then they just expect that person to understand, but you have to be open to say, if you've got any questions, you need to come back and tell me, because it makes sure that they feel comfortable that you're open to supporting them. Once you've done that a few times, that's it. You know how to delegate. It's a two-way street. The other person needs to feel empowered to say, I'm not quite getting this yet. How can I deal with this? And kind of adopting a coaching approach as well. So rather than just saying, this is how
Okay.
you do it, saying, okay, if this comes up, how might you manage that? How would you deal with that differently next time? And asking them questions and enabling the person who you've delegated to actually use their brain to work through the process and come up with an answer. We don't necessarily learn by just being told this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
Like that process and the context needs to be there. The other thing about high performing teams is context. People need to understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. If you want a team to work for you and to be really engaged with your business, you need them to understand why they're doing the thing that they're doing so that they take it seriously. You need to say, this is why we're doing this. This is the consequence of us doing it right. This is the consequence of us doing it wrong. Because how can you expect someone to do something to the best of their abilities if they don't understand the stakes and they don't understand what could be the consequence of them not giving it 100%? So yeah, communicating between the team, having a good communication between the leader and the team itself, and communicating all decisions. And again, context. This is why we're doing this. This is why we're striving for this goal. This is where this goal is going to lead us to in the future if we hit it. I think there's just a lot of people that just, as a leader, you've got it all in your head and you think, right, this is, I know. And then you just assume that they know, but they don't.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what's going on here. So it's really,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
important. And sometimes it can feel like you're over communicating, but that's really the way to do it, without micromanaging. So yeah, that's the thing with teams and with my clients. When I find I've got business owners who are feeling stressed and overwhelmed, and I'll come in and I'll say, right, what's going on here? It's normally they've got a person who's not performing, that either it just needs to be retrained or needs to leave. They've not got the right people in the right seats. They've not learned to delegate properly, or they don't have anyone at all. So they've not been able to go through that process of actually recognizing what the role is that they need to hire for. So they've got a pain in a certain area and not realized that they could fill that with the position. So that's some of the bits that I really love about what I do, is actually helping them grow those teams and recognize that they don't have to do it all on their own, especially when you're a small business owner and you're starting to grow your
Yeah.
team for the first time. Like, there are people that can help you, but there is a process that you need to embed.
Indeed, and just understanding that nobody is in your head. I like that statement.
Yeah.
Um, and that was something I had to learn. What that did for me was it made me patient with those I delegated with,
Yeah.
or delegated things to, because I told myself, yes, it makes sense in your head. It's all figured out, but this person is not there. So you need to be
Yeah.
patient. You need to use the coaching approach to style approach to actually help them get the right skills they require in order to meet that target. Let's also look at, let's say, the mindset and the resilience for building a business. Working in the corporate world, I think there's a mindset. Running a business, I think there is a mindset to it. Do you want to talk about, maybe compare and contrast a bit from your experience?
Working for yourself is like a completely different beast in my own experience.
Mm.
So one of the things that I found really hard, and I think a lot of people find this hard, I know my clients have said this as well. When you're in a corporate environment and you've got a job and you know what's expected of you and you've got time frames and you know that you've got to get stuff done at a certain point and you're working till a certain time of the day, it's quite easy to get through your work. When you work for yourself, no one's holding you accountable. You've got all of these hours that you could get stuff done. And it's really easy to get distracted by shiny objects and tasks that don't really move the needle. And if anyone is struggling internally with sort of low confidence, they've actually got limiting beliefs about what they're capable of and how they can achieve certain things in their business, they will find everything in their power to avoid doing the tasks that will move the
Yep.
needle. So in my own experience with this, before I recognized what this was doing, I would spend days at a time fiddling around with my LinkedIn banner. I was like, it's not right. It doesn't look good. The messaging's not quite right. And I spent a whole day doing that. And my other half would be like, have you actually sent any DMs today and tried to engage with potential clients? And I was like, no, I haven't, because my banner's not right. And he's like, Laura, no one cares about your banner. And this is the same. This is the same for business owners as well. It's like, oh, I've been really busy, and oh, what did you do? Oh, I was reorganizing my email files and tidying up my laptop.
Yeah.
Okay, but did you actually do any of the things that you need to do to make sales today? So it's hard, and a lot of it is the internal stuff, how you feel and think on the inside, your beliefs that
Mm.
sit within your unconscious mind. Those are what going to drive your habits and your behaviors. And I think I had all of the confidence in the world that I would be able to run my own business and be fine, but I had a lot of limiting beliefs that I didn't really realize
Yeah.
about, and those were what were causing problems. So my thing with clients is kind of understanding what they're telling themselves, what actual stories are they telling themselves that are actually potentially blocking them from being great, and we identify those and we remove them, and then that kind of enables them to start taking the action. So yeah, the mindset thing is about having really high levels of confidence and self-efficacy. So the difference between those, confidence being like you're a confident individual, self-efficacy is believing that you've got the tools and the methods to complete what it is that you're trying to do. So you kind of need both. You can have the confidence in yourself, but if you don't believe that you've got the tools and the
Uh,
methods, you're not going to get there.
Interesting. And talking about limiting beliefs, most times we don't even know they're there, right?
No.
Till someone else points that out. So how important is accountability or just having a partner around you when doing some of this stuff? Maybe work partner,
Yeah.
friends, or some, yeah. How
Huge.
important is that?
Absolutely huge. I think there's been some of the most powerful coaching sessions I've ever done with clients. I've just not said a word. And they have just
Mm,
literally spoken everything out, and they've just got it all off their chest, and they've had all of this stuff up in their head for so long that it's been holding them back. They've been like muddled because they've not had that clarity that we've spoken about. They've not known where they're going. They're going around in their head with these limiting beliefs, and then they speak them all out into existence. And I'm like, okay, so the issue is this and this. And they're like, yes, that's it. And so having someone to speak to about your problems and work through and get, and someone to identify and pick out what those limiting beliefs are, or those thoughts are, or whatever it is, or sometimes just to tell you being a little bit silly, just say, I think you've kind of overthought that so much now that it's like become a real thing in your head, and it's not. Like your brain has actually really catastrophized that. So that, from the accountability point, is really important. And also just having those regular check-ins. So going back to my point of when you're in a corporate environment and you know that you've got deadlines and you've got meetings to have, it's easy to get stuff done. But when you're working for yourself, who is keeping you accountable? And over time, I believe that you can make yourself accountable. But in the beginning, it's a
mm.
massive shift to go from way that you were working to the way that you are now. And so having, like, working with a coach like myself is that really nice mid gap to help you start training yourself to have new habits, behaviors, and ways of working so that you can keep yourself accountable in the future.
Yeah, and probably on a lighter note, maybe one of the most important accountability partners is lack of funds. Maybe when that happens, you're like, oh my God, I need to then sit up right, like to help
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah, because by the time, and let's use what you were saying, maybe you've spent a lot of time designing your banner, and then at the end of the month, there's no money. I think that will do something to you. You're like, nah, this month, whatever is there is fine.
Yeah,
We need to get money
100%.
into the business. Okay, so we've been talking serious stuff. Let's talk probably not so serious stuff. So I read on your profile, which is something I don't usually see, that you love frogs and you love adventure. You've talked a bit about the vacation, just being
Yep.
adventurous. Let's talk about frogs. What is it about frogs that make them so likable? That
Oh,
someone has it dedicated on her page to say, I love frogs.
I love frogs. I really do. So I've even got one tattooed on my arm here. Let me show you. Um,
Interesting.
I don't know if you can see it there. I've got a little frog
Yeah, a bit.
tattooed. So okay, so it kind of links back to the Costa Rica story. So the reason I went to Costa Rica as a destination was to go and look for frogs. And originally I was going to go to Borneo. We couldn't go to Borneo because of COVID, and it was all shut still. So I was Googling out where else can you go and see like tropical frogs and things, and it said Costa Rica. So that's where I went. Now Costa Rica is famous for its frogs, and I didn't see a single
Mm.
one in the whole time I was there. So I went to
Wow. Wow.
every night tour that I could, and then when we met new people along the journey, because it was really quiet in Costa Rica when went, because it was coming out the back end of COVID, it wasn't as
Mm.
busy like with tourists. But every time we bumped into a new group of people, they were like, oh yeah, we saw this one and we saw this one. They're showing me their pictures, and I was like, no. Anyway, so I didn't get to see any. And why do I love them? I just think they're lovely little creatures.
Mm.
They're so happy. They're not there to hurt anyone. They're really cool and quirky. So they've got like, they swallow with their eyes. They have to use their eyes to swallow. They don't
Yeah.
drink water. They absorb it through their skin.
Mm.
They've just got all these really like cool things about them. But that journey of me going to Costa Rica is the thing that ended up kind of like changing my life and my perception, and allowing me to change my career. So I was always, that's why I got the tattoo, because for me it was like a new beginning. It was like a transition of my life, all because I wanted to go and find some frogs and take some photos. So yeah, that's it. I talk about frogs all the time, and I think it's fun to have something a little bit different. I am a bit obsessed.
Yeah.
I've actually got a frog hat here, which is my holiday hat. Um, got it on the side because I'm getting ready. One of my clients at Christmas bought me a Kermit the Frog coaster. I've just got
Interesting.
frog stuff everywhere. Yeah, I think
Do you have a pet?
I don't. And you know what? I really want to get some white tree frogs, but because I like to
Mm.
travel and I'm moving around a lot,
Uh,
it's not a good idea. But the day that I'm settled and I settle somewhere properly, I will be getting
yeah.
frogs.
And you just mentioned the unique thing about frogs, like absorbing water through their skin. Um, that is there any other animal on Earth that does that from your knowledge,
I
if you
don't
know
think
any other one?
so. Yeah, I don't think
That's
so.
unique.
Yeah. But I just
Hmm.
find them so inoffensive. Like, they're not there to harm anyone or do anything. They're just really happy. And the fact that there are so many different varieties, it's
Mm.
wild. I think that's the other thing about them. Like, every country has a different type, and I think they're amazing.
What else do you do to relax? You mentioned the gym. How do
Yeah.
you just unwind and make sure you have that balance you always talk about as well?
Yeah, I like to just get outside and get into nature. I love the sun, and I can see the sun peering through my window now. I'm going to get blind in a minute.
Yes, same
Um,
here.
very passionate about just getting outdoors and moving my body. I do paddleboarding, so very,
Mm.
very into my paddleboarding. And yeah, I think I also like to try and disconnect, that, like I mentioned earlier. So I like to post on a
Yep.
Saturday on LinkedIn, because I tend to post not so much about my business, but something a bit more about me, my thoughts and stuff, which I find builds a really good connection with my audience. But then on a Sunday, I just want to leave my phone on the side and not touch it and really like disconnect. And I find that's what really recharges me, is just being present
Yeah,
in the moment, whether I'm with my boyfriend, whether I'm with my friends, my family. Um, it's just about, yeah, being present in the moment. And that's really important.
it is. I say to people, while working, do not forget the most important things. Yourself, your family, your loved ones. They should always come first. So thank you so much, Laura, for making our time for this. It's been
It's okay.
wonderful having you on this call, with so much energy. I don't know if it's the affinity for frogs, but super excited.
Always, it's always the
Yeah.
frogs.
Yeah, but thank you so much. And just
Thank you.
walking us through the mindset of moving from corporates to starting something. And yeah, it's been a lot, just to learn from you, and I'm grateful. So thank you so much for
You're
that.
welcome. And if it's okay to mention that, so from when I was a career coach, I had a process that helped people figure out their new careers and exit where it
Mm,
was. And that has now been turned into a self-study course that I have on Udemy. So,
okay,
and it's like
wonderful.
under £50. So if you're thinking, what do I want to do with my life? I have no idea. There is a formula, a process. It's 4 modules, workbooks, and videos that guide you through the process of career design, which I created to help somebody go from having no idea what they want to do with their
Lovely.
career to what to do next. So, highly recommend.
Great. And probably share the links. I'll add them to
Yeah,
the post, and I'm sure people will reach out. Can they reach out to you on LinkedIn as well if they
yeah,
have questions and just want to connect with you?
absolutely. Please do come and
Okay.
say hey. See the frog content.
All right. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye
Thank
for
you. You
now.
too. Bye.